you're on
this is a meaningful knife.
Yeah.
So you see the trident engraved there on the sheath.
Yeah.
We get issued a K-bar
Wow.
when we graduate SQT. So, buds, everybody knows buds, but SQT is when you actually earn your trident. So buds is like the 6 months trial by fire. You're not even close to a SEAL by the end of buds. So you got to go through about a year and a half of actual qualification training.
And even then you're an FNG, right?
Yeah, and then you're just an FNG.
New guy.
And so then everybody gets issued a knife. See, it says my SQT class, it's class 265. And everybody has a fallen SEAL on it. And here I have AE2 Curtis Ashton, SEAL Team 2, killed in Vietnam in 1969.
So that knife is not for me. That knife is not for civilians. That would be if you go through SEAL training. Where would you wear that, just for my own fantasy files, on your body? Would you wear that on your boot or on your leg?
Good question. A lot of us wouldn't carry a knife like this in combat. It's a little big and bulky.
Small knife.
So, yeah, we would carry, and it's usually on the belt. Guys, it might just be a utility knife. A lot of guys like to carry a slightly bigger knife.
Yeah.
You never know.
My fantasy is to wear a knife like this and then pull it from here and then clean house. Anyway, I'm going to leave this here.
The manly thing to do.
Yeah. Now, let's just start with the fact that you're a very divisive figure, because you can't be a Republican or a Democrat, and you can't take a stand without being that way in politics.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you think, I'm going to make a statement, and I want you to tell me true or false. We're more divided as a country than we ever have been. True or false?
Well, I mean, objectively false. It's pretty bad right now for a lot of reasons, but we did have a civil war. You look at
That's pretty divided.
That's pretty divided. But that's a long time ago, so maybe that argument doesn't really work with people. But you can go to the late '60s. I mean, there's political terrorism happening. There's riots. It looked very similar to the Summer of Love of 2020.
Yep.
Cities burning down. So we're
the Summer of Love.
Yeah. This stuff's been going on a while. But if you just look at the last 30 years, since the Reagan era, this is way worse. This is very clearly worse.
Yeah, but is that because you're dealing with social media and misinformation and all the things you hear about people talking about?
Yeah, I think social media has a lot to do with it. It sort of pits people in their corners, gives people who have no idea what they're talking about a platform to talk about it, and people can retweet that. So I mean, a completely careless, casual comment on TikTok can go very viral.
Right.
This person put zero thought into it.
Yeah.
But it sounds right.
Yeah.
You can think of a lot of examples like that. It just hits, right?
Yeah.
Just hits.
Yeah.
But it's not true if you think about it for more than 5 seconds.
But
at least it's more complicated than they're making it seem.
But you have members of Congress that pick up on certain stories because it serves their narrative and pushes their profile forward. Now, when you're in these hallways and you walk by somebody you don't agree with or you're having a tiff with, is that awkward? Like when somebody on the when a very visible Republican walks by a very visible Democrat, or let's say a conservative, a classic conservative walks by a very left-wing, congressperson, what happens? You're all cordial, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cordial. Like I don't. Unless you're really looking for attention, like I've seen some people do, they're not going to go like, and they'll film it, right? And they'll go yell at somebody, but that's pretty rare. I guess the best example is like AOC. We don't really go at it anymore, but we used to on Twitter. Yeah, I just did Twitter. And it was just, I don't know, just gonna smile and nod as we kind of go past each other. I don't think it's, don't take it that personally.
But if you're a tough guy. You and I have talked about fighting. You and I have talked about who you'd have your hands full and who you wouldn't. That's just guy stuff. You were a SEAL. You kind of prove that when it comes to tough, you're pretty good. When you look out on the floor, when Congress is in session, I would imagine for the most part, you're looking at everybody there going, I'll keep you busy. If you have a problem with me, I'll meet you halfway. You're gonna have your hands full with Dan Crenshaw. Is there anyone in Congress you feel in hand-to-hand combat would best you? It's a very important question.
Oh yeah. I'll give my buddy Mark Wayne some kudos here. I mean, he's a trained fighter.
Yeah.
MMA
guy.
Real good dude. From Oklahoma. I don't think anybody else has anywhere near that level.
So there's only one guy in Congress, is what you're really saying.
Yeah. Look, there's some special operations people in Congress.
Oh, yeah.
There's some really tough people in Congress. You got Brian Mast from Florida, got his legs blown off.
Yeah.
He walks around here every day.
Yeah, not walks, but...
Yeah, well, no, I mean, he does on prosthetic legs.
Right.
So there's a toughness to that, to overcome something like this that is extremely deep.
Let me ask you a very important question, something I've been thinking about. If you and Marjorie Taylor Greene were in a cage and you had to go at it, and I'm not trying to be, but I feel like she would beat you. She's very angry, and she always has, her chin is always down. Her form is excellent just when she stands, and she's got that look in her eyes, which is, it's that 1,000-yard stare. She looks right through you. And I feel like you'd have, I feel like she'd somehow clinch, gable grip you, pick you up, and suplex you on your head. It's just what I think.
Yeah, you'd be wrong. I've seen a lot of people with the crazy look dead on the battlefield. Doesn't always look.
Doesn't translate to combat.
This gets to a more serious conversation, which is fighting doesn't mean winning.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's winners and there's fighters. There's people who run into a hail of gunfire.
Yeah.
And die.
Yeah.
And it looks cool for Hollywood, but they've won nothing. And nothing looks that cool when you're dead.
Yeah.
And nobody, you know, I think Patton made a speech in World War II, and it was like, I don't want you to go die for your country. I want to make you make the other son of a bitch die for his.
Yeah.
That's, you know, so that's winning. And there's people like that who don't really want to win. They never won anything, not politics. They don't win anything for their constituents. But you know,
they basically
fight.
divide.
Yeah. Well, it's
they purify their echo chamber.
Yeah, 100%. It's good for fundraising. It's good for building that brand, gaining attention. You'll never expand, but the expansion's not the goal.
Yeah.
So for me, expanding our base, expanding our movement is 100% the goal. That's the definition of winning in politics, is you are persuading more people to be on your side. And if you're not doing that, then what are you doing?
But so you know, one of the things that I admire about you is that I've had long conversations with you, and I was talking to my buddy about how taken aback I was with how nuanced your mind is around all these issues. You're such a thoughtful guy. People don't realize you went to Tufts. You graduated from Harvard, the John F. Kennedy School of Government in Harvard, with a degree in, what was it, civics or in social policy or whatever
Public
it is?
policy.
Public policy.
Public administration.
You've got a very strong command of history from what I've spoken to you about. So I admire that, you know, and that sometimes though is when you have a nuanced sort of look at the big issues that actually affect us, it's hard to change hearts and minds sometimes, isn't it? Is that a liability, or is that an asset?
Just a nuanced approach to anything?
Yeah.
Is it a liability?
In politics, because I feel like
it's both. It's an asset and a liability, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that hate it, right? They want black and white thinking. It's good versus evil, you know. And like the left thinks this way, the right thinks this way, but only in only in extreme pockets do they really truly believe. Like, no, they're evil.
And they're kind of the same people.
Yeah.
People on the far left, people on the far right. They don't like veterans typically, because the far right are isolationists, the far left have their own reasons.
Yep.
And then, but they kind of are the same people. They believe different things, but they think the same way. Is that fair?
Absolutely. So, and like I'll lay out a process for how someone acts, and then you tell me who it applies to. And I bet you can find examples on the right and the left. And so it looks something like this. Step one, say something extremely provocative and crazy. Say something that you clearly mean to provoke someone or offend someone. Then, step two, express disbelief that anyone would even react to what you are saying. You know, what, do they want to date me or something, right? You remember that quote from, say, AOC. Like, it's like, no, you did this on purpose, and now you act indignant that someone might react to it. Then you claim victimhood. Why are you always picking on me? Why? It's the establishment, they're picking on me. It's the leadership, they're picking on me. They just don't want people like me to succeed because I represent you. It's this game, right? And so they play the victim, and then they use that victim as a club to wield. You see this, and when I say that, I mean maybe they send out fundraising emails. You know, they'll make money off of it.
That sounds like AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
It's the exact same.
Same person.
It's the exact same little game that gets played.
And do you think that they're doing that on purpose, or do you think that they're actually calculated enough to be doing that on purpose, or is that just a byproduct of a personality, of an extreme personality?
Oh, probably the latter. Probably just the byproduct. I think they kind of naturally see what works.
See, now this is what I like about you, because that's not a politician's answer. You just gave me a thoughtful, you gave them the benefit of the doubt, whereas most politicians would be like, nah, it's very calculated, they're bad people.
Yeah, no, I don't think I don't think they're that strategic, to be honest. Or, but there's a lot of things that happen unconsciously in politics and in society, and we often attribute these like grand strategic narratives to the other side. And I caution conservatives to do that, because I will come up with very profound reasoning for why the left does the crazy woke things that the left does. But I always couch it by saying, like, it's not like they're sitting in a dark, smoky room, like establishing all of these narratives.
You're not a conspiracy theorist.
Like maybe one person did, and they were very successful at promulgating this ideology throughout many. But most people they genuinely believe they're doing the right thing. It's now I can connect the dots and see how they got there, but they don't necessarily.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Well. So when people say that there is a deep state, there is a small group of people that are controlling everything. Is there anything to that? You're in Congress.
Well, I think there's definitely something to it. So, but what the accurate way of talking about the deep state is simply, it's a very large bureaucracy, and it's filled by humans.
Yeah.
These humans with these biases and these opinions and these emotions. And look, bureaucracies have a number of attributes. One of them is not wanting to change things very much, because if for no other reason, because it requires work on behalf of the bureaucrat. I think most of the time it's that freaking simple.
Yeah. Not a sexy answer, but
right.
You can't make a movie about that. You can never make a movie about the deep state. The problem is the deep state. Well, what's the problem? The bureaucrats, they don't want to work.
Yeah.
That's the plot twist.
It's one of many problems. There's some I think are complete partisans, and we see examples of that with the whole Russiagate thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you got, I don't remember their name, Elisa and what's the other guy's name?
Adam Schiff.
Yeah, well, Adam Schiff for sure, but like these other FBI agents, and the problem is this really erodes trust in institutions that we really need to be trusting, and that's a problem. So I think that's the true definition of
that.
The
Might be
state.
the liability of electing somebody as divisive as Trump, as sharp a profile as a guy like that. You're going to get people who go, anybody but him by any means necessary.
Yeah.
But so what do you want to do? Like when you're here in Congress, you come to work every day. Obviously, I think you're probably a guy who a lot of people want to put money behind for your future in politics. But forget all that. Like, what are you trying to get done, and what can you get done as a congressman?
Yeah. So like short term, I'll tell you right now, like we're working on perhaps a appropriation supplemental for the border. Yeah. To be extremely specific, this is what I'm talking about. So, look, our Customs and Border Patrol need more money. Our HHS needs more money. Our immigration services need more money. This problem is very severe, and like a lot of people are pissed off because of the Ukraine aid package. Spend money on that, spend money on the border.
$40 billion.
It's a lot of money. I think it's a good investment,
really?
Disabling the Russian military, which we can talk about.
Yeah.
But people are like, well, why not the border? I'm like, well, I agree. Why not the border? And my answer as me personally is, I don't get to choose what I vote on, right? Because I'm in the minority. I get to go press yes or no, and so I make a value judgment based on that. So, but anyway, that's one example. I'm on energy and commerce, so I also work on things like what's the Republican healthcare plan?
Right.
But this is a vision that we have to set up for people. We've got a lot of ideas policy-wise, but the Democrats have Medicare for all. We're just going to give you healthcare, right? That's their message. They leave out all the other side effects of doing that, but we need an answer that is almost as simple as that. If you get too simple with healthcare, you're lying.
Yeah.
You got to address some of the complexities.
Well, I think you want to say you want affordable healthcare. It's not so if you get sick, it's not going to bankrupt you. How do we bring prices down?
We want that. I go further with my healthcare vision. I need it to look more like the voucher system that we use to deliver every other need. It's not a right. is very, it seems like we're splitting hairs when we use different words, but it's a very important distinction. There are things I think we need for people: shelter, food, water, healthcare. We already believe that because we make doctors treat you if you come to the hospital, whether you can pay or not. By law, the doctor has to treat you. Our payment system's all screwed up though. So we deliver food in a way that it's not perfect by any stretch, and people abuse it, and there's problems with it, but it's basically a voucher system, right? It's a food stamp. Here's your food stamp, and you go pick the food that you need. It's a little bit restrictive, maybe more than it should be, and it's for poor people, it's sometimes humiliating for that reason, but let's assume just the basics here. It's a voucher system. If you have approached food delivery the way you approach healthcare, basically what you would say is go pick out most of the stuff you want in the grocery store, although if you want cucumbers, you have to buy tomatoes first. We're not gonna tell you why, you just have to. Then you go to the cashier actually bills somebody else. They may or may not come back to you for some kind of reimbursement, but then you go on your merry way. That's a really weird way to deliver food.
But it sounds simple when you talk about, if you're saying that we could do the same thing with healthcare, why has that not?
The voucher idea?
Yeah, why hasn't that permeated?
Because we're not doing a good job talking about it.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you really dig into Republican policy thought on this subject, it kind of comes down to a premium support model, voucher system. We've got to express that a little bit better, and I think be a little bit more clear on that. It gets long and complicated. I'm not sure you want to go down.
Do you guys get into groups and say, hey, dude, we have to be specific about how we communicate this?
Yep.
That's what Republicans and Democrats have meetings about.
Well, Republicans have meetings about that, and Democrats have their meetings.
Yeah.
There are some groups that do those meetings together, but usually not about something big like healthcare. So we plan on winning the majority this year. I don't see a path to victory for Democrats keeping the House. So we need to know how to govern. We need to know what we're going to do. So we have all these task forces that operate in each one of these issues where we have those exact discussions. Like, what do we stand for? Right? What's our priorities going to be in these different areas? And so that's largely what we're working on, because again, we don't choose what goes to the floor. We try to have some leverage, but we really don't have any. In the Senate, Republicans do have more leverage. But I'd say another thing we're working on is we'll call it broadly the China bill. So this will be a bipartisan effort. It's in what's called conference right now, which is a bicameral, bipartisan conference that kind of hammers out the details of this massive bill. It was already passed in the Senate, it was already passed in the House. We like the Senate version, the House version we don't think is great. But it helps us compete with China better. So this is good news. I mean, these are important discussions happening. It's about how to build semiconductor chips here instead of relying on Asian countries to do it, where the Chinese can influence those supply chains. So there's important things happening, and that everybody's working on.
Let's talk a little bit about the $40 billion to Ukraine.
Sure.
Okay, so we know that most of eastern Ukraine identifies as Russian, or at least they're all Russian speaking. It's a complicated issue. I think the United States, when they signed that treaty with Ukraine, saying I think they wouldn't interfere with Ukraine's bid for NATO membership, was highly irresponsible and frankly provocative. That's what it sounds like to me. They had to have known. If I'm an actor and I know that, you're telling me they didn't know that? So that's the first thing I think is very strange. But $40 billion to Ukraine when we're having trouble finding baby formula. That's the soundbite.
Yeah, that's the soundbite.
That's the sound.
Sounds good on Twitter.
Go.
Sounds good on Twitter.
Yeah. This is what you get, though.
You can spend. I know it is what I get. So this was Marjorie's line, right?
Yeah.
Well, how our baby formula?
Yeah.
We'll spend $40 billion on baby formula. See what happens. Nothing will happen, because it's a recall issue at a specific plant in Michigan as to why we have shortages on the shelves.
Right.
And it's exacerbated by just the long-standing supply chain issues. It's not just for baby formula, but for food in general. By the way, Ukraine is the breadbasket of the world, so if you care about food prices, you might care about Ukraine stability. But it's also plastic, it's cardboard, it's the packaging for the baby foods. That's why. It has nothing to do with, we can't spend our way out of that problem.
Right. I had to wait for my Tesla.
Yeah.
Where's my camera?
It's tough.
I know. Poor me. Anyway.
But it's a very disingenuous comparison. I get why people are frustrated. To some of your comments about Eastern Ukraine, it's kind of like saying, well, in South Texas, there's a lot of Mexican Americans. And Mexico used to, run Texas. Why can't Mexico just invade? I mean, is it really anybody's business if Mexico just decides to invade and take over their old territory? I mean, all these people have Spanish surnames. Why can't, they speak Spanish. Spanish is everywhere. It's on the billboards. Why can't they just have it?
Right.
It's that's such an insane, and you talk to Ukrainians and they're like, this is the craziest talking point. Right. Of course there's ethnic Russians here and there, but this is a Russian occupation. It's a sovereign country. This has very clearly been an occupation for a while now. And there's no justification here. Like people kind of throw their hands up and they're like, it's complicated, so both sides, right? Now I think they've gone beyond that and been not even saying both sides, but practically saying that Russia's in the right in some cases, which is really bizarre to me.
You could say though, would it be fair to say that Zelensky, the United States, and the powers that be in Ukraine were pushing the envelope and calculated or miscalculated Russia's reaction because they did want to be a member of NATO. It does seem that there was a great deal of Ukrainian interest in becoming a NATO member. Again, Zelensky, really? You think that dude, Putin, gangster?
Yeah.
You think he's going to let you join NATO? I mean, that on the other side would be a little bit like Mexico, saying we are now Russia's #1 ally and we're going to have Russian bases in Mexico.
I think it's a real red herring. This entire argument stems from Russian propaganda. Yeah. This entire thing, and a lot of people on our side that are isolationists by nature, they grab onto it because they're willing to grab onto anything to further their own isolationist philosophy. So let's just examine this basic idea that NATO expansion has forced these poor Russians into invading other countries multiple times.
It's a little bit.
It just sounds ridiculous even when I say it like that because it's completely ridiculous, and the Russians don't believe it either.
No.
I think the best analysis on this is from Peter Zion. He talks about how Russia's been invaded nine different ways. Okay, they used to own all of those corridors under the Soviet Union, and then they didn't. They still believe they're in medieval times and that they're, one day they're going to be invaded. They're not actually afraid that NATO is going to invade. They don't do defensive exercises, they do offensive exercises. They practice bombing Sweden. When they do military exercises, that's the kind of stuff they're doing.
Yeah.
They are not worried about us invading.
Damn Swedes. And so tall and good at speed skating.
Very jealous.
Kill them.
But there's the NATO doctrine is defensive in nature. It's very clear cut that way. So everybody knows that Russia has no need to fear some kind of NATO invasion of Russian territory. It's complete nonsense. What they do have to fear is that their entire system of governance of oligarchs run by a dictator is under threat because their ex-Soviet bloc countries and neighbors like Ukraine are wanting to be more Western. They want to democratize, right? They want to, it's a slow burn because this is another thing people say. Well, they're corrupt, so how can we possibly help corrupt people? Well, so let me get this straight. You're fine with someone being murdered and genocide committed against them because they have some corrupt officials?
They siphon money?
I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
It's just kind of an insane justification, first of all. But it's also, you have to understand, this is the natural progression of a country that's coming out of the Soviet bloc. Right? There's steps to this. Right. First thing is have an election, maybe not the best election, but an election.
Yeah.
Right?
They did elect a comedian / actor, which
as we know would be kind of terrible.
Well,
good. Sorry.
Dude, I think I'd be a very good president. The problem is I want to be liked so badly, so I'd be playing both sides all the time.
Yeah.
I always say if I was president, I'd be like, I don't know, sometimes maybe it depends.
Hey Dan, is AOC's office in this building?
Yeah,
Don't tell him because he's going to try to pop his head in.
I'm sure you can look it up.
He's going to try to be like, I'm 6'5" with these eyes and this hair.
Hey guys, I'm going to go ask AOC out real quick. I'm going to fix everything.
If you do that, I'll be very impressed.
She's probably not here.
Be the bridge, bro.
Everybody's gone.
Really?
Yeah, because we finished voting for the week a few hours ago.
I'm gonna leave her a nice note and a sexy picture.
There you go, brother.
See you guys later.
This is the kind of self-defense weapon you need. Like, so we were talking about training. What kind of training does SEALs get? And I say it's very realistic training. So, like people think maybe a switchblade is the best thing to have. Right? You pull it out, you switchblade. Yeah, it kind of looks cool. There's quick ways to pull that out. But I would say that this is a much, if you know how to use this correctly, it's a much faster draw. Because I'm just like, you're here, and then it's already out.
Oh, that's a
because
problem.
of this, and that's yeah.
Wait, how'd you do that?
Don't tell him. It's SEAL
this
stuff.
This catches on your pocket.
Oh.
And so if you're getting hit, and like you practice that, like somebody's punching you on the ground, and you're like struggling to get the nets.
And you just pull, pull. And then where do you stab to end the fight?
It doesn't matter anywhere.
Hang on a second, Dan.
Get them.
Just get them.
Lots of because in the real world, like the movies just completely misconstrue how a fight actually happens.
Yeah.
But it's like the bad guy's like knife.
Yeah, and you're like, God, guys.
Yeah, like imagine if it was that nice. There it's like such a predictable.
Have you ever seen Bryan shoot?
Yeah. I'm like a phantom. You won't.
Do you get scared of the?
No. You don't see me because I'm like a phantom. I never stop moving.
Tell him how you run, Bryan.
I do skip a little bit because I get older. I'm light. I'm very light.
Yeah, you're very light.
Yeah, I'm not
bird bones.
I've got bird bones.
He
If there's a stiff wind, I get picked up.
There he goes.
I get blown backwards.
So bad.
What was I going to ask you about? If you had 3 weapons to go into battle with, what would it be? What would they be? Zombie apocalypse. Zombie apocalypse.
Okay.
And we've got to go raid the armory.
What kind of battle? I mean, I think
zombies. We got to raid the armory.
How do you kill the zombies in this particular?
Well, the way have you ever seen a zombie movie? You shoot them in the head, or you gotta stop.
Sometimes it's different.
Bryan doesn't think these things.
Well, I would imagine it's got to be headshots. Headshots.
Okay, so you have to kill people. You have to kill zombies with headshots.
We each get 3 weapons.
Yeah, so you don't need a large caliber gun. You want a long magazine. So I would just go with a 5.56 AR.
Okay.
I know how to use it already.
Yeah. Very loud though. You go deaf.
You can silence it.
Really? Suppressor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dan, I got a question for you. Yeah. You are going into said zombie apocalypse. You're allowed to bring 1 person with you. Your options are me, Bryan, or Marjorie Taylor Greene. Who do you take?
Good. That's a really good question.
Thank you.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Huh.
Think about the attributes.
Yeah.
First of all, I need less food. I can go. He's big. You're a huge target, dude. You're 6'5".
Which one of you is faster?
Me.
I mean, I'm older.
Bryan.
So
Bryan.
I got fast twitch muscle.
You're faster.
I'm faster.
I'm built like a frog, though. I did my genome, and I got a lot of fast twitch muscle.
I'm stronger.
You know what's actually my decision is going to be based on
Who can run fast?
Who am I faster than?
Oh, dude, I'm so slow. I'm so slow, dude. Yeah, but that's only 1 meal, man. You keep me around.
Point, you have to sacrifice the person you're with.
That's only 1 meal, dude.
So, and you know what I do? As I die, this is what I say. We the people, Dan. We the people.
Yeah, and I'd be like, nice. But I'm out.
That's all you do.
I'm like, I'm surviving.
I go, keep us safe.
Yeah.
Keep us safe, Dan. Keep the world safe for democracy.
So wait a minute. Wait. So then by your standards, you take Marjorie.
Oh yeah, I guess. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, Bryan.
You know why?
We
Can
live,
I be honest
dude.
with you? And we're gonna end this way.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say this. You got to take Marjorie because if the zombies are really winning and they kill everybody and it's just you two and you guys are the last couple on Earth, it's Adam and Eve
This
all
has
over
gone
again.
to a terrible place.
I'm just saying, bro, it's Adam and Eve all over
This
again.
conversation went quickly.
You guys have to procreate. You might create Cain and Abel, because it makes sense, but
You guys are from LA. You know men can get pregnant.
Oh no. I think that's a good button for this episode. Jesus Christ.